Welcome back to my little symposium where I'm discussing which route it's best to take in your working life. Is it best to be self employed or is it best to have the security of being employed by a company? I'm sort of trying to weigh up the benefit of each decision one might make. If you haven't watched the first part, I would encourage you to see the first part where it will help you make sense of what I'm going to be talking about now. And I was ending that little discussion about how I took up the job of doing property maintenance down there in Spain, where I was talking about as a young 18-year-old how I set up my own business of doing gardening and swimming pool maintenance. Just to recap then, I was 18 years old. I was living down there in Malaga in the Costa del Sol in the sort of Fuengirola Benalmádena region. And I just started up this gardening business. I was a complete novice at the time. I had no experience of one, running a business, two, dealing with people, and three, I didn't know anything, absolutely nothing at all about gardening or cleaning swimming pools. But I will say now, I much preferred the gardening aspect than over cleaning the swimming pools, and I'll explain later a little bit why. But even though I was young, and when you're young, you're like a sponge, and you can learn things and take things on board. And I learned from a very young age the importance of being a reliable person if you want to become self-employed. And the reason that I sussed it out so early is because when I first started, obviously I didn't have no customers at all. And I was saying I remember the first garden that I got, it was a Spanish family. And I had to try and grow the business from there. I had to try and get more and more customers to be able to make a living. And when I met these new customers, or I found a new customer who wanted their garden maintained or their swimming pool, they all, 99% of them, they all came out with the same thing. And they all said to me, the reason I'm getting rid of my previous gardener is because he's so unreliable. He doesn't turn up when he said he's going to turn up. And when we're away back in our own country, because a lot of people back then were very wealthy and they owned two properties and they probably lived in Germany, Scandinavia, Finland, Denmark, Norway, the UK, etc. They only used their villas for a couple of weeks or a couple of months per year, and the rest of the year they would be in their own country. And they were expecting their gardener to turn up, look after, maintain their garden while they were there in their own country. But when they got back, they'd noticed that their gardener had completely neglected their garden. The plants were all overgrown, the grass was brown and dead, the swimming pool was cloudy or green, full of algae. So when they got back, they weren't happy at all. And 90% 99% probably in fact, of people, when I started working in their garden, they all came out with this reason of why they were looking for a new gardener. So I learned from a very young age the importance of reliability. To do what you say you're going to do. To turn up at somebody's property when you say you're going to turn up. If you say you're going to be there at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday morning, be there at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday morning. Don't turn up at 10:30. Or don't turn up at 11:30 on a Thursday. Be there when the people are expecting you to be there. And I realised at such a young age, at just a new person starting out a business, how important it was to keep your customer happy by being there when you said. It was that simple, such a simple logical reason. I didn't need to know much about gardening at that particular time because I realised that I was going to learn as I went along because I enjoyed doing gardening. But I realised that I had to be a reliable person to be there every single week to keep on top of their garden. And I knew it was working, this theory that I'd come up with, because I was getting more and more customers. There comes like a point where you reach with the amount of customers and you can't take on any more customers. And I think when it came to gardening, it was probably around the number 12. So you had 12 customers that you needed to look after, and that was it. But what I found was during the year, you would probably lose one or at maximum two. But generally, I calculated in my mind that I would be losing one customer a year. But what was I doing wrong to lose that one customer a year? Absolutely nothing. It was circumstances that were completely out of my control. They decided they'd had enough of Spain. They didn't want to come anymore. They were getting old. They wanted to sell the property. So they sold their property. And the people that bought the new property, maybe they didn't fancy having a gardener anymore. They would look after the garden themselves. Or, in a worst case scenario, maybe one of them passed away. As I say, these people were older people. They had a lot of money, but they were at their end of their life. And you never knew when or if they were going to die. And unfortunately, with a number of my customers, that's exactly what happened. So mentally, I had it prepared in my mind that I was probably going to lose one or maybe two customers per year. But it wasn't difficult to replace those customers simply because of the amount of gardens that there are in the Costa del Sol. They are literally everywhere. I don't remember advertising, maybe once or twice, putting out some adverts in a newspaper down there that was called the Sur. I'd advertised in there maybe 3 times maximum in my whole 35 years of doing gardening. You just didn't need, there was no need to advertise, because I worked for the same customers from the age of 18 probably up to the age of 35. I just kept those customers the whole time. And during my time, like I said, when I first started the business and I didn't know anything about gardening, I was very observant about what other gardeners or swimming pool maintenance people were doing. I didn't particularly like the swimming pool side of doing the business. And the reason I didn't like that is because of probably the months of July and August. The rest of the year, the swimming pool was fairly easy to maintain. But when you had July and August come, obviously that was the high season and everyone was taking their holidays. And obviously in the holidays, a lot more people, and a lot more people brought a lot more kids with them. And the problem was that a lot of people weren't showering before they went into the swimming pool, or maybe the kids were using the swimming pool as their little toilet. So what would happen is you would have the swimming pool nice and clean. And you think, oh, that would be good. When they arrive, the swimming pool's nice and clean, the water's crystal clear, it looks absolutely lovely and inviting. And then 2 days later, the owner would phone you up and say, oh, Adam, can you pop round my house? My swimming pool, the water, it's gone green. And you say, oh no, again. And you'd go round there, and they would, even though the swimming pool water was murky, you couldn't see the bottom of the pool, they were still in the swimming pool. You were trying to clean a swimming pool with people still in the swimming pool. Sometimes it was difficult because, one, they didn't want you there while they were there enjoying and relaxing on their holiday. And two, I didn't want them there while I was trying to work. So I always never looked forward to July and August. They were extremely stressful and very hot months to work. It was extremely hot. I used to get up at the crack of dawn so I could start work at 7 o'clock. Because you found if you didn't start down there in southern Spain, if you hadn't started by 7 o'clock, there was no way you could start at 9 o'clock. It was just too hot. So you had to let your body become acclimatized to the heat of the day getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And the problem also you would have is that I never used to stop. So I would get up and I'd start work at 7 and I would finish at about 7 as well, maybe 8. So I'd basically done 13 hours a day non-stop. And the reason that I didn't stop was because if you did stop, it was so hot that you wouldn't be able to start again. So mentally you had to be so focused that I'm going to do the whole day. I'm going to do 12 hours non-stop. 3 hours in this garden, 3 hours in that garden, 3 hours in that garden, and maybe 2 hours in that garden. And that's what I did from the ages of 18 up to 45. Was it easy? Was I successful? Well, I can tell you now, no, it is not easy. If you want to be self-employed, you've got to be extremely, brutally disciplined with yourself. There's no luxuries. Oh, no luxuries at all. There's no holidays. You just have to work. You're the boss. There's no one above you. It's great that you've got your own freedom, but all that pressure, or I shouldn't say pressure, I probably mean responsibility. All that responsibility was yours. You were looking after people's houses. People gave you the keys to their house. They were expecting you to go there week in, week out and maintain their property. Like I said, I loved it. I absolutely loved it, apart from July and August when there was just too many people and especially too many kids there. But in general, I loved it. I loved making and learning how to keep that grass. In Spain, they have grama grass, completely different to English grass. And I learned how to make that grass look absolutely beautiful, a lovely, deep, rich green. And when I'd finished cutting the grass, trimming the edges, cutting all the hedges back, the bougainvilleas, etc., I was so proud of what I had achieved and how beautiful a garden would look. From nothing, from knowing absolutely nothing, I made it my goal to learn how to make a garden look beautiful. And believe me, those first 8 years, 9 years, they were tough. They were really brutally tough and difficult. I knew nothing about how to earn money, not a clue. In Spain, back in those times, it was extremely difficult. I don't even think they were in the in the EU at that time when I started. And then we had the peseta. And like I said in my previous upload, my competition was old retired men. The mentality of working down in southern Spain is absolutely nothing compared to the UK. You can't compare the two. In the UK, you call a tradesman out and they're probably going to charge you £18, £90 just before they've even turned up, just for a call out fee. Well, I can tell you now, forget that in Spain, because it just didn't happen. When I was young, you were paid, or you charged the customer per hour, and it was literally per hour. So your time, you charged them. If you said, oh, I'm going to be here at 8 o'clock and I'll finish at 10, you would charge them literally 2 hours of work. It might have taken you half hour to get there and half hour to get home. But the time you charged the customer was just that 2 hours. Like I said, I was young. I was inexperienced. I didn't know. All that responsibility was mine. I had to make sure I wasn't ill. I had to make sure I worked enough to make enough money. It was pittance back then. Hardly any money at all. But you learn. You learn all the time. I didn't realise it, but I was learning all of the time. Like I said, it wasn't a huge amount of money, but it taught me one vital thing in life. And that was how to budget money, how to be responsible with money, how to care for money, how to respect money, not to get into debt. I took on no debt at all. I made 100% sure that everything I bought, I made sure 100% that I had the money saved. I didn't get into debt buying brand new cars. I didn't get into debt buying, or should I say going on expensive holidays. I lived within my means. And that's the discipline you need if you want to be self-employed. Because if you're not disciplined with money, you never, ever, ever, I can 100% guarantee you it. If you're not disciplined with money, you will never succeed being self-employed. Another thing I had to deal with being self-employed was that, like I said, is a lot of my customers didn't actually live in Spain. So they'd only come once or twice a year. I'm going back, I say 30, 40 odd years now. And I had to wait, as a young person, I had to wait for them to come on their yearly summer holiday before they paid me. So I'd have half my customers as residents of Spain that were actually living there, and I'd have another half, the other 50%, or maybe even 60% at some times, or maybe even 70%, come to think of it, that were there in their own country, and I wasn't paid. So I had to budget and make sure I didn't overspend, and to make sure I was living within my means. So some months I might not have very much money at all. And when they came, or when these people all came in the summer holidays and they all paid me at once, I had a lot of money. I'm not talking about a lot of money, but I suddenly had a influx of money. So I had to make sure that with that money that had suddenly come in at that one point, that I had to sort of keep that money safe to make that money last another 6 months until they went and came back again. Does that make sense? So I learnt these skills with money as a young person, and it has benefited me my whole life. Luckily, the person I married is exactly the same. I don't think you can be particularly materialistic if you want to be self-employed. Like I said, I must stress you have to live within your means, because there's no guarantee when you're self-employed. You don't know if you're going to fall out with your customer. You don't know if your customer's suddenly not going to have the money to pay you. You just don't know what is around the corner when you are a self-employed person. And you've got to keep that in here. You've got to realise that and put it in your head that tomorrow anything can change. You've got zero security when you're self-employed. So let's analyse that again. You've got freedom as self-employed. You can go to work when you want and stop where you want. You've got no one above you giving you orders, telling you do this, get that done, get this done. I want that done on the weekend. Can you do overtime? You don't get that. You don't get peer pressure from your peers. You know, those that want to climb up the corporate ladder. You don't have to deal with annoying co-workers or whatever. You've got none of that. So yes, there are benefits of being self-employed. The freedom is brilliant to do what you want, finish when you want, have the weekend off, do what you want. Brilliant, fantastic. Everything's under your control. It's your business. You're making money for you, nobody else, for you. Brilliant, can't beat it. But on the other hand, there's no security. Zero, zilch, nada. If you're sick, tough luck. No one's going to pay you. You don't get into work, you don't feel like going to work, no one's going to pay you. You want to go on holiday? No one's going to pay you. Does it sound so appealing now? Got to do your own pension. Got to sort out your own taxes. There's so much responsibility being self-employed. Do you want that? Or do you want to be employed by someone that sorts it all out for you? You have to deal with those co-workers though. But you know what you're going to get at the end of the month. You can make plans. You can get a mortgage. You can get a loan. You can do this. You can do that. You know what you're going to get. Brilliant. Fantastic. I can go home at the end of the day and forget all about it. Not my problem. It's the boss's problem. Let him deal with it. All I'm doing there is going to work 9 to 5 and I go home. Forget about it all. Oh, wonderful. Brilliant. Oh, lovely life. Take it easy. Just get paid. Choice is yours. What type of personality have you got? Can you deal with it? Can you handle it? Can you handle being self-employed? Or do you want it a bit easier, being employed by someone else? Decisions, decisions, decisions. But I'll tell you one thing. The older you get, the more respect you get. I found when I first started, people didn't really take you seriously. But once you get older, that all changes. Once you get knowledge of how to look after a garden and make that garden look really special and nice, you can start charging more money. I said the first decade, 8 years, 5 years, whatever, it was tough. I wasn't earning much money at all. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't getting rich. I don't think nobody gets particularly rich being self-employed, unless they've got lots of businesses going at once. But I learnt the trick of making money was not charging by the hour. I'll never ever fall into that trap again, and I'll advise anybody that wants to go self-employed, cleaning, whatever job you want to do not under any circumstances charge by the hour. People want you to give them a price by the hour. Don't do it. Do not charge by the hour. Charge for the job. It is the only way you will make money is by charging a rate. Say, yeah, I'll look after your garden and that'll cost you £400 a month. You don't say, yeah, I'll do your garden and I'll charge you £20 an hour. They'll be sitting there watching you. Oh, you left half hour early. Oh, you haven't done this. Oh, can you do that? Can you do this? A little bit extra they want you to do. Just charge a set price. Include your petrol, your travelling time. Like I said, when I first started, you couldn't do that. And I was naive. Yeah, I didn't include that. But I learned. When you're self-employed, believe me, you're naive. You don't know. You don't know how it works. You don't know how people are. You don't know how people react. You don't fully understand, reading between the lines, what someone's actually saying to you. But you learn it. You really do. It takes a little bit of time, especially when you're young. But believe me, you learn it. And you learn how to make money. People respect you and they will pay you. If you do a good job, and you know you've done a good job, everyone knows if they've done a good job or they've done a bad job. If you're reliable, you do a good job, people will pay you whatever you want, because they can go back to the UK, Germany, Italy, Norway, Sweden, and they can go away knowing that their house, their garden, their swimming pool, their property is being looked after by someone professional, someone mature, someone that knows how to do their job properly. And that is priceless, and they will pay it 100%. 100%. And that's the good thing about being self-employed. Satisfaction that you've done a good job. You know, you've gone home at the end of the day, you're absolutely shattered, absolutely exhausted. I used to go home absolutely exhausted, 12 hours working in 40 degrees. I was exhausted, literally burnt out, exhausted. But I was happy. Oh, I was happy. I saw I'd done a good job and I did the best I possibly could do. And that's it. And in part 3, I'm going to talk about the final stages of my working life, because basically you can't work at that pace forever. You realise that it's catching up on you. Like I said, in part 3, join with me where I'm going to be talking about the final stages of my working life. I'll see you then.